learn to a decent extent the history of American capitalism through the metaphor of the drug trade in The Wire. The show very much has this sense that elites, whether they're drug elites, government elites, police elites, create structures often that make sense to a certain extent, but that become self-perpetuating and keep everyone, there's a metaphor of kicking away the ladder, keep people away. And I do think that's something that is one of those undiscussed issues in the US today.
You think the man got paid?
Who?
Man who invented these.
Shit, he richer than a motherfucker.
Why? You think he get a percentage?
Why not?
And the nigga who invented them things, still working in the basement for regular wage, thinking of some shit to make the fries taste better, some shit like that. Believe.
One of the things that the second season of The Wire kind of gets at that's important is that like, unions were this way of having the ladder. It was that people could climb up to that middle-class life, and that the decline of the movement has meant there's another way that a certain elite, and not even in a nefarious way or even in a conscious way necessarily, has created structures in which it's harder for people to rise socioeconomically. Bodie has this wonderful line in season 4 when he's meeting with Jimmy McNulty in a park where they're talking about Marlowe's gang, and that Marlowe in some ways is kind of symbolic of, I would say, the attitude of the last maybe 30 years of US history, of US politics, where there's been this move towards more individualism, more I get what I get and I don't care as much about the community. And Bodie is saying, you know, in the previous iteration in Barksdale, the Avon Barksdale operation, people at least sort of took care of each other to some extent. That if you know, I think he actually, Bill Clinton had this line, you know, that he wanted to have policies that if you work hard and play by the rules, you can live a decent life. And Bodie talks about, you know, oh, people asked Bodie to do this, people asked Bodie to do that, and but you know, I always did it, and people stood up for me. And now with Marlowe, people don't. And he has this just piercing line where he says, "This
game is rigged, man. We like them little bitches on the chessboard."
In the conversations that The Wire has generated, I think one that is worth having more of is that, personally, I actually think that the second season of the show is kind of the key to understanding a lot of the problems. Good paying jobs, sort of those old manufacturing jobs, which, especially if they were unionized, you could make a decent living without a lot of education, have really disappeared a lot, especially from our Northeast, Midwest cities.
We used to make shit in this country, build shit. Now we just put our hand in the next guy's pocket.
And so it's like kids can get a great education, maybe, but even so, it's getting harder to break into jobs that will pay them well. And you know, that de-industrialization of Baltimore is something that happened in similar ways across the country, so that, you know, a character like Avon or Stringer, their parents or grandparents probably actually had decent factory jobs. When those jobs left, those ghettos, those hard, seemingly intractable ghettos, really started to emerge, and that's the current issue. I think a big issue for politicians to take from the show is just that there is an underclass in this country, and that the reasons that there is, I mean, I think this is a thing that the show actually does a good job of saying, that there are issues of kind of, I hesitate to say culture, but it's just that, you know, there are things that are not purely economic that grow out of the situation that need to be dealt with as far as education, that kind of thing, but that there's this real strong structural economic and social components that have been built up over generations that aren't going to be quick fixes, but that people really need to care about if we're to have a decent country.
You're stealing from those who themselves are stealing the lifeblood from our city. You are a parasite who leeches off
just like you,
the culture of drugs. Excuse me? What?
I got the shotgun. You got the briefcase. It's on the game though, right?